let's compare the village life and the city life. You know, being someone who's grown up in the village and migrated or moved to Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya, to sort of look for opportunities, I can be in the right situation to sort of compare, to because I've lived in both places and I know the challenges of both places, and I think I'm the right person to discuss the differences, right? You see, in the village, their cost of living is very different from the city. Yeah. First of all, let's start with rent and food. Yeah. Rent in the village is literally almost zero, right? I think in my village, I saw um, one room. Yeah. One room was like 1,000 Kenya shillings. Yeah. That's literally $9 or something like that. But in the city, that single room, could cost you up to 6,000 or upward of that. Yeah. And that is literally in the outskirts. Yeah. So you can see the difference. Yeah. So the differences, you've not even started with to talk about food. Yeah. Because in the village, you can literally survive with no money. Yeah. Because you find that food are grown for subsistence purpose, right? People grow for consumption. Even you can go to a neighbor, find a ripe potato, I mean ripe papaya or mango, and the neighbor is very okay with sharing with you, right? But here in the city, definitely you're not going to get anything for free. As food especially, you have to just purchase. There are supermarkets, the markets are here, but everything is money. Yeah. So I'd say that is one of the comparison. Yeah. Talk of Wi-Fi, because in the village you really don't need the Wi-Fi. Yeah. I think those who live in the cities normally need the Wi-Fi mostly for work purposes, and because it's very easily accessible here. But you go to the village and there is no Wi-Fi at all. You find that people mostly depend on data bundles, yeah, from mobile service providers, just to sort of browse the internet, yeah. Talk of things like Uber, Netflix. Those are things that are not in the village, yeah. You find that they are mostly in the cities because now the population here is high. One, two, they're able to sort of pay for it, yeah, and the living standards here can favor that, and you take your Uber to the village, definitely you're not gonna get any customers. That's a failed business. It is going to fail definitely. Yeah. And that's how it is. Also inflation is very hard in the city. I can assure of that. You find that things are quite expensive here. Yeah. But you live in the village, life is quite simple. Yeah. I think that's the reason why most people who live in the village are sort of scared to move to the cities, because now the cost of living is something else here. Yeah. And not everyone is okay with it. Yeah. Not everyone can sort of cope up with the changing situations, right? So let's talk of the pace of life. Yeah. You see, in the city, things move fast. Yeah. Chaotic. You find vehicles all over the place, noise every in every corner of the streets. Everyone is hustling. Pressure is always constant. Traffic, deadlines. Yeah. You find that deadlines steal your time. You're always in a rush to go to work. After work, you're always in a rush to go uh, to your work, to your place, yeah, of residence, to rest at least, because you've been busy the whole day. Yeah. But in the village, you find that your life is slow paced, yeah, peaceful, predictable. Yeah. You find that people are surviving on basic, and the economic activities there are very straightforward. Tomorrow you're going to the farm, this week you're going to the farm, and it's a repetition of the same thing. If you are taking care of cattle or sheep or goats, you know very well that every day you have to wake up to take off those sheep and goats, yeah, the animals, yeah. But in the city, it's quite chaotic, yeah. Talk of the opportunities, and for me, I think that's what brought me to the city. Yeah? In the city, there are a lot of opportunities compared to the village. That's right. Yeah, especially if you're in corporate, you find that companies have sort of set up their headquarters, yeah, in the cities. They can't set it in the village, no. So in the village, there are limited job opportunities, yeah. In most cases, you find that the agriculture and small scale businesses are the ones that dominate, really. Yeah. So if you want professional jobs, there are sort of fewer jobs in the village compared to the city. Yeah. I think that's what you find that in African countries, there is huge, you know, rural urban migration because now people are looking for jobs. People want livelihood. Yeah. You've studied, you've worked out in coming from the village, you definitely need to be in the city to get those jobs, right? Yeah, definitely. You'll just have to migrate. It is what it is. Yeah. In the city, job market is very competitive, and tough. Yeah, because now everyone is here, everyone wants those jobs. Yeah, so the competition is here, compared to the rural areas, right? So you find that in the urban areas, yeah, networking and gigs and connections are key. Yeah, you need those networking and connections. But if you're in the village, then there are few experts really. If you if you if that job is available, definitely you're going to be most likely be given, yeah, because you're the only one. There is no competition. But if you're in the city, if you find that most of people who have studied are here and they're looking for jobs here. Yeah. So also the internet and the exposure, the fact that people are always online because of the things like Wi-Fi, yeah, availability, Wi-Fi availability, you find that brings more exposure and open more doors, yeah. So you find that the city gives you a shot, but it does not really guarantee your score. Just remember that. It doesn't mean that if you come here, you're gonna make it, yeah. But there are those opportunities which are quite more, yeah? Social life and privacy. See, in the village, everyone knows everyone, yeah. You go to your neighbor, you can tell that this is who and who, they do this and this, and you can there's good association, that sense of community, yeah. But in the urban areas, I can assure you that you can live with someone for 10 years and you cannot even know who is, yeah. You can live in a place for a couple of years and you cannot tell who your neighbor is, and you find that nobody cares, you know there is no that sense of community, yeah. So you find that people are always minding their business. People are always in a rush. Someone wakes up in the morning, goes to work, comes back late, yeah, wants to sleep to wake up tomorrow again. So, and it's always repetition, and always in a rush. So there's no time for socialization really. Very few. You find that in the village, um, gossip, sometimes I think travels more, you know, more than anything else because then people are always in each other's business, you know what your neighbor is doing, what is happening in the village, there's that socialization, and I think that's what brings. But in the city, you find that loneliness is real, especially if you are a bachelor, that is. If not married, you don't have a girlfriend or something like that. You find that you are very lonely, yeah. You're very lonely despite the crowds, yeah. Um, and I think it's just how it is. So you find that in the village, I'd say they everyone knows when you sneeze, I guess. But in the city, you find that nobody even knows your name. Yeah. Let's talk of technology and infrastructure. A comparison. Of course, in the village, there is poor network, yeah, and electricity in some areas, literally. fewer digital services, talk of cyber. You see, in places like Isholo, um, I think, yeah, I heard somewhere in the news recently that there are some remote places, in 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 Kenya to be specific, where you'll have to walk for miles and miles to get a cyber. Yeah. So you find that in some places you find that electricity is not even there. Yeah. So that's just how the village is. Yeah. So you find that there are fewer digital services. You want to file that you want to file your taxes, you have to go to cyber near you, and that's very far. Yeah. You want to print something, you need to walk for a very long distance. Yeah. Let's talk of healthcare. Limited access of healthcare. In the rural areas, there are no much hospitals, unlike in the urban areas where hospitals, especially private hospitals, are the dominant. They're all over the place. Schools, amenities and stuff like that, they're all over the place in urban areas. The only issue is that it's quite expensive. Educating your child in an urban setup is very expensive compared to someone who educates their child in a rural school. And then it's just where so you find that in the city you have the internet, yes, you have the infrastructure, but no time. In the village you have all the time, but there's no infrastructure, there's no network, there's no Wi-Fi. Trust me. And then now the mental health and lifestyle. So you find that if you're living in the village, you've got less stress, yeah, more sleep. And I think this is what leads to more people to sort of build the houses in the rural areas, especially retirement houses, right? So you find that someone comes to the city, work for a very long time, and then in the end they move to the rural areas or the village, yeah, because then it's quiet, yeah? It's quite calm, less stress, you can sleep well. But in the city, it's a lot of chaos, a lot of noise, and nobody wants to be in a noisy place, yeah. People want their peace of mind, yeah. So you find that uh, nature sort of helps in your mental health, right? You're walking in the village, you see trees here, you see plants, you see animals, it's sort of therapeutic, yeah. And then you find that um, those are the advantages, but sometimes you find that boredom and lack of ambition can creep in. You find that because now you're in a place where people are so relaxed, people don't hustle that much. You find that you become lazy. You don't achieve a lot of things because now the environment that you're in, people are not achieving so much. You have that um, satisfaction in very small things, and you find that you're not, pushing yourself to the next limit. Yeah. But in Nairobi, you find that there's a lot of pressure, a lot of anxiety, and all that. You know, something is always happening. Yeah. Let's talk of the culture and values. You see, in the village, people respect tradition, respect routines, strong family and ties, moral expectations. You know, you cannot mess in the village without them or people calling you, for a discussion to sort of discuss why you did that, why you misbehaved here and there. Yeah. And you find that in the village people are so resistant to change. Unlike in the cities where there is diverse and modern, and liberal. Yeah. There is diversity, people are all over the country come to the city. Yeah. And that's how interaction comes about, right? So you find that people sort of prioritize individual success, unlike in the village where people prioritize community success, right? And in the urban areas, nobody cares whether you misbehave or not. Yeah. As long as you've not broken the law, nobody cares, right? So if you break the law, do something that is probably still somebody's thing, people will just leave that to the police to deal with you. Yeah. Unlike in the rural areas where they could negotiate with you. I mean, there are other ways to solve problems, yeah, in the rural areas compared to in the urban areas, right? So the real truth is, I'd say balance is key. You find that the city gives you sort of exposure, but the village gives you grounding, yeah. So you find that both worlds have value of their own, right? And maybe the real win is knowing how to sort of navigate both, yeah. I think that's how it is. What do you think? Do you think village, what is that one difference that you think urban life offers compared to the village life? Leave your thoughts in the comment section, and of course, if you like the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well. And of course, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.